Good Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Browns getting ready for the opener Sunday, 4:25 against the Cowboys. National game, Tom Brady's debut as an analyst. Sunday will also be the first time we'll get to see the Browns' revamped offense with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and Ken Dorsey talked about helping design an offense around a quarterback like Deshaun Watson.
The biggest thing that you want to do for these guys is not take away their instincts. You know what I mean? And I think I heard a coach say one time that it's like, you got a box, and inside that box is, hey, your footwork, your reads, everything, just in the playbook is in that box. Well, some of the best quarterbacks that have been out there, they're the ones who are step out of that box, and those are the guys who make those plays work, when they step out of that box, either with a scramble or, hey, why'd you throw it there? That's not part of the progression versus, well, I saw this, or, just instinctually they have that in them. So there's that balance of staying within the system while also not handicapping them from what they instinctually do best. And so I think that's the big thing, and just understanding, there's going to be plays that, he's going to make some exceptional plays for us that no one else in this league can make, and he's going to be able to do that for us, balancing that with, hey, there's a time to throw it away and move on to the next down, so there's definitely that balance you got to strike with guys, because you don't want to lose that aspect of what makes them, special in their own way. And I think the great thing about Deshaun is he can do that outside of this, just normal system, and then he could get back and work a progression and rip it to an outlet or a third progression in the read just as equal. So I think it's just a balance you got to strike with these guys and make sure you don't put the handcuffs on them in too many ways.
And G. Bush, I've been trying to find a way to describe why I think they need to tailor an offense around Deshaun Watson. Ken Dorsey just did it.
Yep, that's the words we've been all looking for. We've been trying to describe why it wasn't working last year, why it looked like at times Deshaun Watson wasn't comfortable. And one of the things that, you had with Kevin Stefanski's offense, and there's no disrespect to his offense, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to get it done in this league in terms of your philosophy. But Deshaun Watson felt a little handcuffed at times in terms of one of the better parts of his game is improvising and extending plays and seeing some different things that you may have not necessarily saw from a perspective on the sideline from a coach. And I thought he did a good job of saying that, hey, sometimes in a progression, guys won't even be supposed to be in the progression where the ball is supposed to go. But, those quarterbacks, some of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, have been able to see different things and view the game a different way. And if we can get the quarterback that he says is able to do things and make plays that no other quarterback in this league can make, hey, I'll take that, because I saw two really good quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes last night, and they made some plays. And if Deshaun Watson can make some plays that they can't make, that means that your offense is worth tailoring around that sort of skill set. So I'm excited to see what this playbook has in store. We have not seen it. A lot of people in the city have not seen it, but I'm definitely interested in seeing what they're going to be able to do against the Cowboys, and to unleash and sort of unlock the Deshaun Watson that we've seen in prior years that have been a really dynamic playmaker.
Yep, and I would say it may not all be there week one, but there should be enough of it that we see where it's going. This is from PFF, highlighting best matchups of week one. They go Amari Cooper versus Trevon Diggs. It's always fun when two former teammates square off. Cooper was with the Cowboys for 4 seasons, enters his 3rd year with the Browns on an adjusted deal, face off with Dallas for the first time in his career, having earned 84.9 receiving grade since 2021. Diggs was amid a career best in 2023 before he tore his ACL after just 2 games. So that's another thing, that you got a rookie 5th-round pick in Carson that's going to play, Kalen Carson, and you got a guy coming off an ACL. Those are your 2 main cornerbacks. Browns got to find a way to win that battle.
Yeah, and by the way, their second corner got hurt during the preseason, and he's not going to be available. So these are the matchups when we talk about the game and when we start to talk about, football in general. A lot of times we bring it down to the quarterback, and we've been reducing the Cleveland Browns down to whether Deshaun Watson is Deshaun from Houston or the guy that we've seen in the last couple of years. I think that you do a disservice to the game of football because there is always games inside of the games. And one of the matchups that the Cleveland Browns do, I believe, have an advantage on is the fact that we're going to see whether or not they upgraded and bolstered that wide receiver room. To me, out of anybody on this roster, the wide receiver room has the most to prove. And the most axe to grind and the most motivated. Jerry Jeudy, once a first round pick, don't ever get it twisted. He's still thinking about being in Denver and how guys like Mark Schlereth and guys, when we traded for Jerry Jeudy, and even people here that said, "Oh, it's ridiculous. Why would you give him money? He's just a regular guy." He has an opportunity to come out in this game and show what he's about and why he got that contract and why the Browns were high on him. Amari Cooper, he's been hearing things about Brandon Ayuk, the trade details, not getting the money that he wants in terms of a long-term deal. He now plays the Dallas Cowboys, who gave up on him a couple of years ago. He don't think he's not going to be motivated. Elijah Moore is in a contract year, right? You think Elijah Moore doesn't want to come out and put up numbers, and Cedric Tillman last year didn't live up to what we thought he was going to be able to do when he did get an opportunity to play, but he's been has come along a little bit. And by the way, if you're Cedric Tillman, you want to solidify your position and spot on this roster and say, well, listen, maybe we can move on from a guy like Elijah Moore or Amari Cooper next year in free agency, because we got another second, our better receiver or a second option right here on the team right now in Cedric Tillman. And Jamari Thrash is a rookie who's been looking to has made some plays in the preseason. Hey, he's looking to be a guy that can be fitting into that slot position himself. So the wide receiver room has a lot to prove. They will be motivated. And this is a matchup that I think that the Browns have an advantage and they should win.
The other thing that we're going to see, it's a chance for two of the best edge rushers to be on the same field together, best in the league. Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. Parsons talked about that matchup with Myles Garrett.
I think this is it starts from week one. I know Myles is going to go out there and try to get on Guyton a little bit, but at the end of the day, I always love competition. So I felt that even when we played the Rams and Donald, I feel like if Donald had 2 sacks, I need 2 sacks. Just because it's just a competitive spirit. We kind of both know where we are. Garrett's one of my favorite rushers. Him and Max Crosby is kind of like my 2 guys that I be like just so freaking like gifted. But man, it's going to be exciting to play against them. This is my first time in Cleveland. Well, besides the draft. But just to be playing down there, to see their environment is going to be exciting.
Guyton talked about how his Myles' game. What do you appreciate about Myles' game?
Man, one thing I always love about a rusher is like, how do you rush? Even when your rushes aren't good or you feel like you're off your game. And he's one of the more relentless. Him and Myles are just relentless, man. They don't care where they at. Myles is like me, man. He has such a great acceleration, his power, strength, and length. Which makes him like exceptionally. It's like ridiculous. And I just think, man, outside of just a great football player, he's a great person.
G-Bush, it certainly sounds like Mike Parsons is going to be motivated. I'm hoping Myles Garrett feels the same way. Chance to show you're the best.
Yeah, because this is a game, and Micah Parsons is, it's almost kind of like, defenses don't go against defenses. So, you see in the league, a lot of people are congratulatory on the same side of the football. Quarterbacks give quarterbacks praise because, you don't have to go against those quarterbacks, right? Your defense has to do it. So Micah Parsons, comparing his game to him, it's going to be one of the best, I think the best 2 pass rushers in the game. The speed, the quickness, the agility. As a former guy who played defensive end, it's just crazy to see, how the evolution of those guys is now where guys are running that fast, that strong, and the flexibility to bend and run hoops and stuff like that, and just to bend around the corner to get to quarterbacks. But in this game, for me, I think that, we kind of forget a little bit. Myles Garrett is actually, for a defensive player of the year, kind of went under the radar. We haven't seen very much of him in the offseason. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award, but so far the Cleveland Browns as a defense hasn't been on the field that much. Greg Newsome, Dalvin Tomlinson, Maurice Hurst, Shelby Harris. Some of those guys have been banged up a little bit. Denzel Ward missed a lot of time with a concussion, and so Zadarius Smith was injured. You missed a lot of those guys getting back on field to see them play together. But I think this is a football game when you look at the matchup. This is a game that the Cleveland Browns at home, in front of that crowd, they want to make their imprint on the game. And if the Dallas Cowboys are one-dimensional, which I think they will have trouble running the football. If they're one-dimensional, it's going to be a very long day in terms of pass rush for the Cleveland Browns or for the Dallas Cowboys, because Cleveland Browns will get after them with the pass rush. But I think this is a game where if the offense starts slow because they haven't been all together, offense is always going to be a little bit behind defense. This is a game that the Browns have to say to themselves, hey, while our offense is getting up and moving, hey, why don't we take the football away? Why don't we make it very difficult for them to score and make them kick field goals and keep them off the board? Because I think that will be the key to the Browns win, is them stifling the Dallas Cowboys, not rather than the Cleveland Browns coming out overpowering and going in and doing a shootout.
Jim Schwartz talked about a guy that the Browns defense has to be aware of, CeeDee Lamb.
Leader in receptions, leader in targets last year. Obviously the go-to guy in their offense. They move him around all over the place. We have a really good key on where he's going to be, though, because he wears number 88. So we'll be able to find him. I like our matchups. This is NFL football, man. This is awesome. One of the best receivers in the NFL, and what I consider the best corner group in the NFL. And you guys know we play a lot of man-to-man, so, it's going to be fun to watch those guys. Even if we're man, it's not always going to be no help. We're going to have little different ways, whether we're putting pressure on to try to help that way, or we have leverage help or over-the-top help and things like that. It's not going to be one person or a one-on-one most of the time, but it's a great matchup, and it'll be exciting to watch.
Translation: defensive back's going to get challenged by Jim Schwartz this week.
Yep. He was like, look, man, we play man-to-man. Don't think we're going to come out here doing a bunch of extra stuff that we don't do. Like, this is a game where if you're in the league as a competitor, that gets your juices flowing. Martin Emerson is a guy that went against Justin Jefferson in training camp on the good versus good, ones versus ones, and he fared very well against Justin Jefferson. So he's coming into this season with so much confidence that he can be a top corner in this league. According to Pro Football Focus, 3 out of the top 35 best corners in the league wear Cleveland Browns jerseys. So yes, we respect CeeDee Lamb. He's one of the best. I think he's a top 5 receiver. He just got paid like one of the best receivers in the game. But here's the problem. We're at home during this game. That matters. Our corners are in the secondary in general is a top. Especially when it comes to corners, one of the top few groups and corner rooms and defensive back rooms in the entire game. So they're gonna have a specific skill set that they're gonna bring. Each of them bring. Denzel Ward has the makeup speed and won't be threatened deep by CeeDee Lamb. Martin Emerson is physical. He's gonna try to get his hands on the football, and Greg Newsome is gonna be sticky in his trail technique. He's gonna be a guy that's gonna be out there, that's gonna be in his back pocket. So it's like, hey, look, he gonna make some plays. The Browns feel like they're gonna make some plays, and it's good on good. So if the Browns want to be known as one of those defenses, and want to be known as one of the defenses in the league, where if you go into Cleveland, it's gonna be very difficult to win games. They got to show up and show out against the Cowboys the same way they showed up last year.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. Been a minute, but I watch your show every day. Hope you and the family had a safe Labor Day. But number 1, this is Sean's bounce back year. And number 2, I hope Jack Conklin takes over that left tackle spot. Man, I'm so sick of seeing Jedrick quit on plays that cost us whatever. But that's all I got to say today. You and the family be safe. I love you, brother. And Now it's time to pick it up, with the regular season right here. All right. Love you, Dave. Later, brother.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. G. Bush, before we talk about that, Mary Kay tweets this out from media availability today. Conklin is questionable. Jed Will's out for the Cowboys game. Man, you and I were talking. I hope Conklin can play. I am not looking forward to potentially seeing James Hudson out there just based on his struggles in the preseason.
Nope. Too many holding penalties, too many false start penalties, getting beat on certain plays. That's not a winning. We have an advantage when it comes to Myles Garrett on a rookie. But if James Hudson plays, I swing that advantage right back to the Dallas Cowboys because Micah Parsons on Hudson is not going to get it done. We were joking. I said, I hope this is gamemanship, and I hope that Stefanski is just trying to keep them, to be able to prepare for both of these guys. But Conklin is well enough and good enough to play. But that's a major storyline. It's gonna, especially when defense is ahead of offense, especially when Hudson has not played with Deshaun Watson. This game is going to come down to a couple of things in the first week. It's the small little things and errors that get you. Case in point, look at last night against the Ravens and the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson has a guy wide open, Zay Flowers in the end zone, overshoots him. He did complete the final pass to Isaiah Likely, but if he wears a size 14 instead of a size 15, that game is going into overtime. However, it's a couple of inches here, a couple of inches there. Those are the things that keep you from winning football games, and especially when you're dealing with timing, chemistry, and reps on the offensive side of the football. It could come down to a screenplay that broke for a touchdown, but there's holding. It could come down because somebody is not on the line of scrimmage. We saw that a lot of sloppy plays with the Ravens last night. So this game is going to come down to some very small, minute things. Whichever team is the cleanest, whichever team can protect the most, whichever team does not turn the football over is going to be the team that wins it. And I'm not comfortable having James Hudson's play hinge on that type of philosophy.
Agree with you 100%. G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Cash, moolah, greenbacks, dough, Skrilla, chips, bread, and mo. 2, 5, 10, and 20. 30 big ones, games aplenty. Cheddar, butter, loot, and scratch. Find the letters, make a match, cause there's many words for cash, no doubt, and many ways to play a cash word. Check 'em out. Cash word from Ohio, lottery. It's game time, yo. Cash word, it's fun to go with millions and prizes, don't you know?
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, everyone. These teams seem evenly matched. Quarterback play will be key as per usual. Dak will throw for some yards in between the 20-yard lines, and we might hold him to field goals as a result. But his running ability is what worries me, whether he scrambles or they have planned runs for him in the red zone. I hope we're ready for that. We have to keep Deshaun upright. If he has time to use his playmakers, I like our chances. I'll take the Browns in a close one, 20-19. Let's go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. G. Bush, here's another thing that I'll throw out there, and it's tweeted out by the Browns PFF Browns. David Njoku, he could be a featured option against the Cowboys pass rush. Njoku targeted at the second highest rate of any tight end when opposing defenses generated pressure last year. Cowboys defense led the league in pressure rate. The other thing, when you look at it, when they get the ball, the average depth of target for Njoku in 2023 was 4.8 yards. Best part of it is he averaged 7.5 yards after catch. And in a close game, if they're getting after it with Micah Parsons, you saw it, I'll refer to last night. What do the Chiefs do? Block, turn around, get him the ball, and get him in. I mean, if you do that with Njoku, all right, I'll take my chances with David Njoku in the open field.
That's he became prevalent last year because of the fact that you had such weak tackles. The Browns were forced to keep him in to help on pass protection and chip and block and release into the patterns late. What they found was that when you're a defense and you tend to see somebody blocking, the natural progression is for you to kind of like lay off the brakes a little bit or forget that guy is eligible to get back into the route and catch the football. So what you had was David Njoku on a lot of plays down the stretch with Flacco. And this is why, some people say, well, he had the chemistry with Flacco and he doesn't have it with Deshaun Watson. A lot of those plays weren't, drawn up for David Njoku to run, 12-yard dig routes or post corners or anything like that. It was just basically he was blocking and he check releasing to the pattern, and the Browns would get it to him very short, and it was a load trying to bring him down. He used his athleticism and his strength and his agility and toughness to be able to turn those short passes to yards after catch. So that's what really sparred and really sparked David Njoku into getting those numbers. So that's still going to be an option for the Cleveland Browns. I think it'll be very wise to do that. They have to keep him in terms of making sure that you can get physical with those defensive ends, not let them get a free release off the line. And then from there, make the Dallas Cowboys tackle you in the secondary. They got a solid defense. Their defensive ends and him and DeMarcus Lawrence are really good. But as far as the linebackers and the tackles are concerned up front, there's some things the Cleveland Browns can get done on the Dallas Cowboys. And I think one of them is David Njoku, and one of his most underrated, attributes is he's a very, very good run blocker, and he's a very good blocker as well. So that's going to be another advantage that I do believe that the Cleveland Browns have.
All right, so Dak Prescott talked earlier this week. What he sees from this Browns defense?
They got an elite player on every level, whether it be Myles Garrett, obviously up front, Jock, don't know how to say his last name, the linebacker, and then obviously Ward in the back end, and Dell put a lot of guys. So when you've got an elite guy on every level, that obviously is the strength. And then having played Schwartz earlier in my career, understanding what he wants to do, and watching their tape last year, they're very physical, they're fast, they know know how to play to their strengths, and they're a great matchup for us, and I'm excited for us to kick off the year over there at their place.
And again, you keep hearing it, elite guy at every level. They need to make sure his legs don't create a problem.
Dak Prescott. I was worried about Dak more early in his career. It seems like after the fracture, they've done a little less of the design run plays. Dak looks to scramble to throw the ball and get the ball downfield. Don't get it twisted. He's still a very mobile quarterback. I think some of the design runs you have to worry about on the goal line are some of the things that where you might see his legs come into play. But when he's running around, extending plays, he's looking to create lanes to throw the football, not necessarily gash you on the ground. So for me, I think that it's imperative that, that the Browns get those guys into a situation where it's obvious pass downs. So if it's second and long, now you're ready to go, because now you have guys that you can bring in your race car packages and your 4 defensive end packages and Ogbo and Myles Garrett and Zadarius and those guys up front are going to pin their ears back. And I think one of the things that watch out for this game is I'm waiting to see the evolution of JOK. One of the guys that we saw that was not hampered at all during 2 days or any of that was JOK. He was out there most of the time, and I think this guy is going to take a major league step forward. He's already, in me, a top 10 linebacker in the league, but his skill set will be on full display. If there's one thing that I think they're going to do more, is I think they're going to do more to have JOK making plays the same way that they move Myles Garrett around to make plays too. So I'm interested. It's going to be a real good matchup. I mean, they're evenly matched pretty much across the board. Like, when you look at these two teams. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Browns come up with, because this is going to be a very good game.
Jim Schwartz talked about going against 2 rookie offensive linemen starting for the Cowboys.
You know, we like our matchups usually on the offensive line, and anytime we get a chance to play rookies. Now, I'd say this, Tony. Both of those guys looked really good in the preseason, right? But first game, we can present some tough matchups. We talked about CeeDee Lamb presenting tough matchups. Well, we got guys that can do that too, and I'm sure they'll have plans for it. Just like we said, it's not going to be. It's very rarely going to be one person with no help. I'm sure they'll take the same approach, whether it's with their center or with their left tackle. And you'll see a lot of different alignments, a lot of different matchups from us along the way, which is sort of normal for us.
Bush, we've alluded to it. They cannot let the Cowboys run the football, and they got to win those battles up front. They win that. They do that, they're well on their way to beating them. When you look at this, what do you think? How do you think this one ends up?
Well, it starts with the run. They got some old guys back there, Zeke, and his name escapes me at this point.
Dalvin Cook
for Florida.
Dalvin
Cook, yeah. Dalvin Cook, that was a great backfield like 8 years ago. That'd be great, man. They'd be dominant, but it is 2024, and I don't think that they're going to be able to run the football as effectively. I know they want to throw the balls. CeeDee Lamb is a guy that has the most targets in the league. He looks like he's going to be back in shape, ready to go with his contract dispute or whatever the case may be. But it's going to come down to this. Can they block Myles Garrett? Can the Browns get some other pressure from somewhere else, right? And if they can do that, and get the turnovers, it's a game. This is a game where I think we'll know if the Browns turn the corner. And what I mean by turn the corner is, I look at great teams and I look at them and say, year after year after year, if you see that you're on the schedule and you're on the road and you're playing there, we automatically look at it as an uphill battle. For years in this division, it was the same way we looked at Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You're like, starting the season at Baltimore, starting to pick, got last game of the season at Pittsburgh. Like, those games were brutal. It didn't matter, what the names were. The names were different. The results were the same. I think that the Browns will show that they're a great defense, and if they can do it this year, then they're signifying that it's just not a fluke, right? We did this to great teams. Last year, the 49ers game, a lot of people think that was a mirage. They look at that game and say, wow, the 49ers, it was more about the 49ers rather than what the Browns were able to do. If they can come in on the game of the week, shut them down on defense and be able to put up enough points and for Deshaun Watson to look like he's proficient as a quarterback, I think the Cleveland Browns will announce to the world, hey, this is going to be a very interesting year because these guys are good.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, G. Bush.
Appreciate you.
G. Bush, make sure you check him out, 92.3 The Fan, 8 until noon on Saturdays. You can also catch him Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We can continue talking Browns. Brad Woolward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Straight ahead. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I think this is one of the best rosters in the NFL currently right now. I am very much excited for the season. I would say that I am cautiously optimistic. Nobody knows how they're going to be on the field, but the team has given all the fans a good reason to be excited, and a lot of that, for me, has to do with the arrival of Ken Dorsey. I've been watching a lot of his plays and his scheme that he did with Buffalo, and I think it's a perfect fit for Deshaun Watson and all the other players that we have on offense. So, yeah, I'm excited, and let's just see what's going to happen.
With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, I agree. I'm very curious to see, and it will be evolving, but I want to see wide open. I want to see shotgun. I want to see quick passes. I want to see let Deshaun Watson read the defense.
Yeah, so what we saw in the preseason, a lot of open receivers, moving the ball between the 20s pretty well, was, for me, encouraging. I think that the choice routes, as long as they're on the same page, matched with the kind of route runners the Browns have, Judy, Cooper, Moore, all excellent route runners, is a great fit. It's all about making it work now on game day. And, the difference, it depends on who you've asked so far, right, on what they've seen from camp. You get some reports that are bad, some that are good. It depends on what day you're there. It's kind of a mixed bag. So that has kind of tempered some people's expectations. But I think a lot of this comes down to when you start the game plan for a team, you cut out a lot of the plays. You go to the ones that you think are going to work against them. You're going to have your first 15 scripted plays, which are going to be really critical. So getting, some quick passes out to Watson early. I like what this scheme can do as far as stressing linebackers and taking advantage of leverage that guys are, short motion, getting guys in motion at the snap. All that stuff that we just saw a little bit of, even in the vanilla preseason, I think is encouraging. And I think a lot of that does come from Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, and the other thing is people are going to say, well, Deshaun doesn't like scripted plays. What the scripted plays now give him is, in essence, you can get out of a play that is, it's going to be a challenge for this play to work. That's one of the biggest differences, is you're giving him the flexibility to get out of plays that, at the line of scrimmage appear like they're doomed.
Yes, and if you're calling a scripted RPO play, what's that's only so scripted, right? You have the choice to hand it off. You're reading one player. You're looking for a window. The idea is to give him easy answers early, right? Like in that script is going to be so critical, is because you want to get him. He didn't play in the preseason, which is fine, right? And probably good to be on the cautious side. But you want to get him some quick completions early, and I think that they will. I think it's obvious that in the first few of those, you're going to see some schemed wide open guys just to get him some easy completions, get in a rhythm, get his confidence up, and from there expand. And then once you're outside of those scripted plays, then it's all about making adjustments within this offense that they've put in, right? And based on what Dallas, how they're going to play you, how they're going to play those RPOs, how they're going to play the play action, because it is going to be a mix of stuff we've seen from Stefanski. So stuff is going to look somewhat familiar, and it's going to be a mix of what we've seen from Dorsey. And I think that allows the Browns to be multiple, right? They can come up with multiple answers to beat you. So I'm very anxious to see this offense. I don't expect it to be super sharp week one, just because they haven't played all that much together, Dave. But if they can put enough points up on the board, I think this defense can do enough to get them out of there with a win.
Well, Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, early in the show, we heard him talk just about Deshaun Watson and kind of building the offense around him. Dorsey also talked about how to best utilize the receiving core that the Browns currently have.
it's a group when you look at it, there's a lot of good, different strengths, and guys do things, and to your point, complement each other very well. And the great part about that group is we got guys that can do multiple things, whether it's outside, inside, so it gives us a ton of flexibility and ability to move guys around. So we got a great combination of, speed, quickness, physicality, explosiveness, possession, all those different factors, I think, kind of grouped up in that room, and the ability to kind of adjust and move those guys around into different spots. I think that's been a lot of fun for us as we grow this thing.
And when I hear that, Brad, I like that, because that says we can find a matchup that we like and we can keep going to it.
100%. Very interested to see Jerry Jeudy in this, right? Nobody's really gotten a chance to see that. But to your point of a matchup, they will be starting a 5th-round rookie, Kalen Carson, opposite Trayvon Diggs. So if you want to look at a mismatch or a matchup to potentially go after, that'll be the one, right? Wherever he ends up. But yeah, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, all terrific route runners, all can go inside, outside. So I know exactly what he's talking about. The one thing that I'm really interested to see is how they're going to use Cedric Tillman, right? And are they going to push the ball down the field with him? He's more of a power receiver. We'll see what he can do in this offense. But they do have a wide array of body shapes, sizes, but they're all really good route runners, and that's the one common theme there. So the choice routes, the finding open space, all that stuff, making yourself available for Watson, all of these guys excel at that. So, the theme that we saw in the preseason, where there was guys wide open all over the field, I hope to see continue, especially with the ones in there.
All right, so this is from ESPN Week 1 preview. Cowboys storylines to watch. Cowboys will be starting 2 rookies on their offensive line for the first time since 2011. One of them, left tackle Tyler Guyton, will be going against Myles Garrett, although they moved that around. The other is rookie center Cooper Beebe. So 2 of the rookies on the offensive line. It's kind of interesting. So Dak Prescott was asked his level of confidence in that rookie center who's got to call out protections and those kind of things, Cooper Beebe. Here's Dak Prescott.
Very, very comfortable. I think it goes back in when the coaches made the change. I told him, hey, get up there, make a confident point, be confident in what you're seeing, and then if I want to change it, I'll just do it. I'll just do that, and so don't be hesitant. Understand that you have the talent, you've got the makeup to do this, and for me, it's just about pouring the confidence I have into him, to making sure that he knows he's got not only me but a locker room and guys who support him and know that he can go do the best and get his job done.
Is that a common thing?
You noticed about his mental makeup?
For sure.
That'll allow him to make that jump?
Yeah, guy loves football, always focused. His demeanor doesn't change. Good play, bad play, he's on to the next, and that's something that I love, that I myself do. So when you see that, that's contagious. When you're the center of that O-line, sure, I make calls and all that, but he's the one talking directly to the guards and making sure that gets passed out to the tackles and tight ends. And so it's definitely contagious. He has definitely a great demeanor about him that he'll be a hell of a player for a long time, as long as he wants in this league.
Brad, they got to take advantage of that. There's no other way about it. I wouldn't be surprised if you see an odd front. I wouldn't be surprised if you see 5 linemen at times. Just so, all right, you can help the left tackle. How are you going to help the center? Jim Schwartz is going to have a ball here.
Yeah, you've got to think that games, bringing guys from different areas in the defense, showing blitz from the left side, coming from the right, showing from the right, coming from the left, up the middle. Like you said, odd alignments up front, 5 guys, showing 4, bringing 5 or 6. They're going to be, stressing him and Guyton all day. You have to, right? You have to put them in a situation where they are forced to make split-second decisions on who they're going to block. And if it's not right, then all of a sudden you're all over the quarterback, right? And I think that Schwartz specializes at that. That's exactly what he's best at. So I fully expect to see them, attacking BB and Guyton, the entire offensive line, but especially those guys as far as making a decision on who you're going to block in a split second. Also, Dak makes so much of their offense is predicated on what he does at the line of scrimmage. Like has a ton of responsibility as far as that goes. He has complete control at the line of scrimmage of what they're going to do. So, relaying that to him making adjustments, the Browns showing one thing and bringing another can really probably stir up some issues for this offensive line in this game.
All right, same article, Browns storylines to watch. Browns will unveil a revamped offense they hope can get Deshaun Watson back to Pro Bowl form. Cleveland has questions beyond that. Jedrick Wills told reporters he won't start. He was ruled out today as he continues to come back from season-ending knee injury, which could force Jack Conklin to move to the left side, a position he hasn't played since college. Conklin listed as questionable. We were talking about this when we heard it, Brad. Give me Jack Conklin because I saw what I saw of James Hudson, the next guy up. I'd rather avoid that.
I think we all would. I certainly would. I don't want to see him out there, but this is what we're hearing some rumblings that it could be Hudson. I don't know why. Either way, the thing is this, right? You're going to have help on that side all day, right? Like you're going to have chippers. You're going to have, lining. The problem is it could potentially limit what Njoku's doing down the field. I think that in run scenarios, I think we'll probably maybe see Nick Harris check in as a tight end on the field. We saw that a lot last year, right? On that side of the ball. So I think that you're going to get help no matter who it is. It's really about the plan around that player. Your plan for how you can always, I was talking on a show last night and the guest said, you can always cover up one hole on the offensive line. I hope that's right. But you're not always playing Micah Parsons, right? So that's the issue there. But you've got to be able to get four hands, two bodies on Micah Parsons on almost every single play.
Now, the other thing that you do is you line up Njoku next to him, and then if the guy gets beat, Njoku turns around. The Chiefs made a living doing that last night. All right.
Block and release, yeah.
Yep. Before we go to break, Jim Schwartz talked about Myles Garrett, one Defensive Player of the Year last year, about him taking his game to even another level.
It's been impressive to watch. I've mentioned a couple players that I've coached in the past that had a similar attitude and a similar trajectory, Ray Lewis and Calvin Johnson. And, no matter how good they were hungry for more. They were hungry. They didn't really compare themselves to others. They were worried about their own performance and improvements that they could make. And, Myles is no different that way. He's an impact player for us. He changes the whole scheme. Sometimes it makes it hard for us to scout because what you see on tape, okay, hey, the center slides this way versus this formation, or they use this kind of protection, or they run this way in the run game. A lot of that goes out the window when you have a guy like Myles because they'll have a Myles plan. And we've gotten better at recognizing those kind of things and try to play off. Every single opponent we have, they start their game plan with how do we account for 95. So, he's with the effectiveness that he had, even with that target on his back. I said about CeeDee Lamb, we know he wears number 88, so he's easy to find. Well, when you're 6'4", 275 and wear number 95, it's pretty easy to find you too. He's still able to be successful. So that's such an impressive thing to watch.
Yeah, and Brad, the other thing is other guys got to step up. JOK, they got a number of guys. Quentin Jefferson, with a rookie center, I think he could have a huge game.
Listen, they go 8 deep up there. They should be able to take advantage of that. But the stuff he's saying about Myles is the one thing I've noticed about this defensive line, anytime they're talking, Dave, in leading up to this game, is They seem very confident. They seem very comfortable. They're not bodacious. They're not bragging, but they seem also like very loose, right? Like they seem very comfortable in their skin and who they are. I'm very excited to see this defense. I think that a year or two under Schwartz, with him even pointing out the facts there of like, we get it. They're going to have a Myles plan, just like Browns are going to have a Micah plan, right? And we're going to have to play off of that. I think exploiting that stuff in year two and all of the additional guys around him, just a year better and understanding the scheme even further, this Browns defense could be. It has the potential. I'll just say that. I don't want to get too crazy here, but it has the potential to be all-time type of a defensive unit if they could stay healthy.
Yep, let's see what they do. All starts to matter come Sunday at 4:25. Brad Ward and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Plus, we'll look a little bit further in depth at the Cowboys. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I predict the Browns to go 12-5. We're going to win the North. At minimum, we'll represent the AFC in the championship game, and I'll take it from there. Outside of that, I'm just all about positivity. And as a caveat, because I'm sitting here as we just released David Bell, I personally think there's a trade brewing. The guy from Tennessee, the receiver that we wanted that Deshaun played with. I think they might go after him. I could be wrong, but I might be reaching. Other than that, stay positive, Brown fans. Forget the negative, all that losing mentality stuff, that's behind us. So let's go. We're going to win our division. We're going to have a home playoff game. Like you guys said, it's been steps. And so we're stepping into that new regime. Let's go. Ooh.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brady's referring to DeAndre Hopkins, the guy from Tennessee. I don't know about that. They might be they may be clearing the way to bring in a tackle if what we're hearing with Wills being out and Conklin being questionable. But I digress. 12-5. I know the Orange and Brown Report staff predicted Browns finishers. You went 11-6. I think 11-6, 12-5. Tell me how healthy they're going to be, and I'll tell you how many games they're going to win. I think it's that important.
It is. That is the key factor, right? Like, what they did last year. Now they play a much tougher schedule this year, more likely. But if they are healthy, to your point, the sky's the limit there. So 11-6. I look at the beginning of the schedule. They got to get off hot start. That's the most important thing for me, Dave. Is like you should be 4-2 after your first 6, and that sets you up pretty well to go into the division. That's when the division starts, and then into what really is kind of a gauntlet down the stretch. But there's some weird caveats there, like Miami coming to Cleveland in late December, right? Those type of things. So how this thing clicks in the first 6, even the first 4 offensively will be a big indicator of that. But I expect after the first 2 games for this offense to kind of find its identity and look different moving forward, as I think they will. The David Bell thing, real quickly, is really strange because even if they were adding someone, Dave, traditionally you get the signing and then you see the release, right? That's kind of the order of operations on most of the things. Or you see the trade and then the player's released. You never see a guy released to make room for somebody. It's usually the transaction happens first. And he has been out with an injury, but he makes the 53 with no, not really practicing or playing since the end of preseason game 1. and then doesn't play. He hasn't been on the field at all. And then he practiced one time and they released him. So what happened between then and there? And they had options. They could have put him on the IR. They could have just made him inactive for a couple weeks. Either way, they chose the finality of it all in cutting him. Now, maybe they get him back to the practice squad, but why risk that if they valued him enough to put him on the 53 in the first place? It makes me think, and I don't know the answer, but I wonder what happened. Like something happened here, and we're just not sure what it is yet.
It could be as simple as he asked for. You know, he saw all the people in front of him. He might have asked for his release. You know, we'll see. Yeah, we'll absolutely see. All right. I know you wrote an article. We always talk about it. Things you think you know about the Browns. Browns cornerbacks against C.D. Lamb, Cowboys wide receiver. Don't let Micah Parsons ruin the game. Take advantage of a statement game opportunity. Let's start with the cornerbacks. I think you switch it up. I don't think it's as simple as you put Ward on him and you're good to go. I kind of like the idea of letting Emerson get after him and knock him around a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, C.D. Lamb is such a physical, violent receiver. And so I think Emerson and kind of what we saw with him and Justin Jefferson at the joint practices leads me to think very similar style receiver. I think that you want to put Emerson on him and when you can, and Ward in his kind of mirror technique against Brandon Cooks is kind of an ideal matchup as well. So the interesting thing, though, is they will play C.D. Lamb, and they have played C.D. Lamb more than 50% of the time out of the slot. So that kind of switches things up for you. Here's what I kind of wrote about in my article is when he's on Emerson's side, right? And the Browns haven't been known to really follow receivers. So you'll probably see a dose of Ward and Emerson on him. And even Newsome at times. But when he is lining up on the slot on Emerson's side, I would slide him in and slide Newsome out when you can. I think that's an adjustment that they will need to make in the coverage of him. I don't want to see him getting Newsome every time he lines up in the slot all day long. I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah, and you know, Micah Parsons, we know that. We talked about him a little bit. Opportunity of a statement game. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, man. National, you know, every eyeball watching the NFL is going to be on this game. Tom Brady in the booth, the NFL game of the week. I mean, it is what it is. It's a massive game. And if you were ever going to make a statement where, you know, the Browns should feel somewhat disrespected the way they've been, you know, predicted by national pundits, this is your opportunity to do it in week one. And, that opportunity doesn't come along so often that in week one you can come out and kind of make a statement about who you are and in front of a national audience, especially if we're talking about Deshaun, right? If Deshaun really wanted to make an impression, he has a great opportunity right here to do it in front of all the eyeballs in the country that care about the NFL. So it's an opportunity that needs to be taken advantage of, and it's right in front of him. So I think it's huge, and I can't wait to watch, Dave.
So C.D. Lamb talked about the Browns' defense and what he sees from the Browns' D, as well as being among that league elite in receivers.
They're nice, man. They nice all around the board. Edge rushers, linebacker, they got fast DBs. Very familiar with a couple of them. I know them on a personal level. So it's going to be fun out there. I'm ready to compete.
Last couple of years, CD, you know, we talked to you about your pursuit to ascend into that very top tier of wide receivers in the league. You know, statistically, last year you got there. Now you're being paid like it. What's the next step for you?
Staying here. It's the next step. The goal is obviously to get here, but to really show how elite you are is how long you stay here. So for me, being consistent, being a leader to my teammates, and obviously, again, help contribute a lot to a win.
Brady's referring to Grant Delpit, who he knows really well. Before I let you go, keys to the game, who do you think wins this one and why?
I have the Browns winning 20-13 on the back of the defense. You know, and I do think that they will have trouble moving the ball against this Browns defense, especially in week one. I don't expect it to be a necessarily pretty game, you know, especially – it's kind of how week ones are. They tend to be a little sloppy. maybe a lot of punts, but I think that the Browns put up enough points. They get a big play here or there. Kevin and Dorsey identify something and take advantage of something, get some points on the board, and then I think the defense seals it out for you. But I think that the defense will make a long day for the Cowboys offense here. I don't know if CD is going to be on a pitch count or what. I watched a lot of Cowboys stuff this week to try to get their perspective. Many are, projecting that he's not in game shape. I'm expecting 100% CD Lamb. I can't imagine why not. I would have thought he would been working out the entire time and be ready to go. So I think, expecting anything less would be a mistake. So, but I do think the Browns pull this one out at home behind their crowd and the defense mainly, Dave.
Yeah, the only way I see the Cowboys winning this is if Browns turn the ball over a bunch or there's a breakdown, punt return, kickoff return for touchdown. Cowboys are going to have trouble running the football, I think. Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, if he's active, Dowdell, shouldn't be able to run the ball on this defense. I'm with you. Brad Ward, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
You're the best, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out. Really good stuff, Orange and Brown Report. He also is the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad mentioned the Cowboys perspective. We will check in with that. Marcus Mosher from the Locked On Cowboys podcast, as well as the 33rdteam.com. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Cash, moolah, greenbacks, dough, Skrilla, chips, bread, and mo. 2, 5, 10, and 20. 30 big ones, games aplenty. Cheddar, butter, loot, and scratch. Find the letters, make a match, cause there's many words for cash, no doubt, and many ways to play a cash word. Check 'em out. Cash word from Ohio, lottery. It's game time, yo. Cash word, it's fun to go with millions and prizes, don't you know?
We continue to talk Browns as they're getting ready for the opener against the Cowboys Sunday, 425. It is now called Huntington Bank Field, and we're going to get a little bit of the perspective of the Cowboys. CD Lamb was talking earlier this week on if his missed time in training camp and the preseason has hurt his timing with Dak Prescott at all.
Me not going to be in camp, and I didn't know it was going to be that long, to be honest. But I will say for the missed time, we got a lot of bank reps. Like we've been working plenty, different routes, different situations, seeing different coverages, different stems. The list could go on and on. But yeah, me and Dak, we've always been on the same page since I got here, since we've been playing together. And I don't think there's gonna be any.
Last year it took y'all a while to get going. This year, second year in the offense, y'all ready to go?
Oh yeah, we locked and loaded. We got an understanding of the offense. We learn how to thrive together, and we're going to do that.
With that, let's welcome in Marcus Mosher from 33rdteam.com, also one of the hosts of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Marcus, you cover this team regularly. How good can you expect CD Lamb to be week one, given he hadn't practiced a whole lot?
He hasn't practiced a ton with the Cowboys. He's only been there about 2 weeks, but he's been working out. He's been in shape. I think the Cowboys might limit his snaps some on early downs, but when the plays matter and the game is the tightest, you're going to see CD Lamb out there for his usual targets. I have no real concerns in this game. The Cowboys have been easing him back into practice, making sure not to overwork him, because the biggest fear is that he has like one of these soft tissue injuries early on in camp or early in the season. I think Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys, have done a good job having a plan ready for CD Lamb so he can be good to go for week one.
You look at it, and Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdell, kind of the running backs. You also have a couple of rookies on the offensive line. Two separate things. Let's talk about the running game. Are the Cowboys concerned about that at all?
I'm concerned about the running game. I think they had major issues last year when they wanted to run the ball and they needed to run the ball. They couldn't do it successfully, right? Now, I think the running back conversation is a different one. I don't love the talent at the running back position, But what concerns me more is the offensive line, right? Because if you have a good offensive line and you're moving people off the ball, the actual runner doesn't matter as much, right? My concern is the two rookie offensive linemen that the Cowboys have, Tyler Guyton at left tackle, Cooper Beebe at center. And then you're also going up against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. So I don't expect the Cowboys to run the ball all that successfully in this game. Mike McCarthy's talking about how they want to establish the run. They've got to be more physical there. I wouldn't be surprised if we get into this game and Mike McCarthy's like, let's forget that. Let's go pass the ball because we're wasting time trying to run the ball here.
What did you see from the two guys that you mentioned, Guyton and Beebe? What did you see from them in preseason? Did they look decent? Did they look pretty competent?
Well, let's start with Cooper Beebe. Beebe was their third-round pick coming out of Kansas State, who was a guard at Kansas State, who they moved to center, first time ever playing center. The Cowboys had no plans to start him in week 1. They had a vet named Brock Hoffman who was going to take that job. Beebe outperformed him, and it wasn't even close. I'm not worried about Beebe at all in this game. I am concerned about Tyler Guyton, who played well in the preseason, but it's the preseason, and it's not Myles Garrett, and it's not Zadarius Smith, who he was going against. Myles Garrett, for my money, is the best edge rusher in the league. The only other guy that's in that conversation is who's going to be on the other side with the Cowboys, Micah Parsons. They can't let Myles Garrett wreck the game, and I have to believe the Cowboys are going to give Tyler Guyton a ton of help in this game, making sure that Myles Garrett doesn't have one of those massive, massive performances.
The other thing is new defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer. There's some ties to the Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski. Do you know what to expect from this defense, or what do you expect from this defense?
It's going to be a lot different than what we're used to under Dan Quinn, who was one of the highest in blitz rates, one of the highest in stunt rates across the league. What Mike Zimmer wants is a more fundamentally sound defense that maintains their gaps and people are in the right spots at the right time. You will see a lot of simulated pressure, which is showing 7 guys and then only rushing 4, but it's not the 4 that maybe you would expect. Maybe it's 2 linebackers and 2 defensive tackles rushing with the ends dropping in coverage. I think you're going to see Mike Zimmer try to really confuse Deshaun Watson, not by blitzing, but just by trying to confuse him to see who is going to rush and who's not.
So you look at that defense, and Micah Parsons, I agree with you. It's either him or Myles Garrett is the best rusher in the game. But you have a 5th-round corner starting because Deron Bland comes up with a foot injury, and you've got Diggs, who's a real good corner, but he's coming off an ACL. Does that put even more pressure on Micah Parsons to get towards Deshaun Watson?
Oh, yeah. Anytime that you have to start a day 3 rookie in your secondary in week 1, it's a little terrifying, right? Now, I do think Mike Zimmer's defense will help these corners. They're not going to put them on an island one-on-one against Amari Cooper or Jerry Jeudy. I think they'll be okay. But you're right. Like, the pass rush is going to have to get there. And that's where I think the Cowboys are going to try to be creative, getting Micah Parsons the matchup they want him to go against. I don't think it's going to be like Parsons rushing against Dawan Jones all game long. They're going to try to isolate him with the center one-on-one. They're going to try to get him shooting gaps so that he can't be double teamed. It's going to be very important for the Cowboys to create consistent pressure on Watson if they want to win this game.
So let's look at it. What do you think some of the keys are when you look at this game, and what do you think ultimately determines who wins it? I mean, it's an intriguing week 1 game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-conference week 1 game between 2 playoff teams last year, 2 of which had the best defenses in the NFL, right? So I kind of expect a lower scoring game. And whenever you have these lower scoring games, it's where 2017 or whatever the score is going to be, it's turnovers, right? It's which team wins the turnover battle. Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson, neither of those quarterbacks threw a single pass in the preseason. You have new offensive line starters. I'm looking to see who wins the turnover battle. Can Deshaun Watson avoid taking sacks, avoid turning the ball over? Will Dak Prescott feel the pressure to try to score 24, 27 points, or does he play within himself? I expect the turnovers to really tell the story here.
how has Dak Prescott been? From the outside, looking into it, it's like, man, why don't they just lock this guy up long term? And they've been hesitant to do that.
Well, I don't think they've been hesitant. The Cowboys would love to sign Dak to a deal right now. They would pay him $60 million a year for 4 to 5 years if Dak would agree to a deal. And that's the issue. Dak knows that he's a free agent after this year. The Cowboys can't tag him. Jerry Jones has actually said they're trying to recruit Dak more than trying to sign him because they know if he hits free agency next year, they probably won't get him back. I do think a deal ultimately gets done. I think it's going to be on the shorter end of the spectrum, maybe a 2 or 3 year deal. But make no mistake, the Cowboys want Dak Prescott back.
Turnovers, absolutely. For the Cowboys to be successful, who has to have a big game? Is there anybody that under the radar that could come through and do it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jake Ferguson, the Cowboys tight end, because I wowould imagine Jim Schwartz is going to do everything in his power to try to take CeeDee Lamb away. Brandon Cooks, the Cowboys' number 2 receiver, has been dealing with a knee issue. He's missed practice over the last couple of weeks. He's going to play in this game, but I have concerns about what he's going to look like, especially, in Cleveland on a grass field. Jake Ferguson became a real weapon for the Cowboys down the stretch last year. He's a field stretching tight end. Can he get over the middle, beat JOK down the seam for a couple of big catches? I expect Jake Ferguson to have a pretty big game in this one. If he can be the X factor for the Cowboys, they'll have an excellent chance to win.
Marcus Mosher, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Marcus.
Of course.
Marcus Mosher, make sure you're checking him out, 33rdteam.com. Really good stuff. Follow him on Twitter. He is also one of the hosts of the Locked on Cowboys podcast. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Cowboys Browns 425. We'll be back here Monday at 4 o'clock to talk about it. Have a great weekend. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.